Hey, how's it going, everybody? So back again today with the next video in this series on improving chess tactics. Series where we're gonna sort of, just methodically go up the rating spectrum and solve different tactical puzzles at sort of different ratings. I'm gonna offer you guys my thoughts on kind of how to think about these problems, just generally for the specific problems themselves, as well as tactics problems in general. Again, as I said in the first video, I do think incorporating tactics training into your routine is an incredibly beneficial thing to do if you're not already doing it. And some of the things that I would suggest as far as sort of doing them would be first to solve for accuracy instead of speed. And to that point, I would say give yourself a time limit unless you're absolutely sure that you've got the answer correct. I would give myself like a time limit at minimum of like 5 minutes to stare at the problem for like 5 minutes before making a move. I personally do 10 minutes, and that's what I'm going to model in the series here. If I don't know what the answer is, I'm going to try to look at it for like 10 minutes before making a move. So yeah, again, I think it's an incredibly important thing to incorporate. And as you're solving for accuracy, I would say that when you're being sufficiently challenged, probably to 60 to 70% correct in a session is sort of a good target. My personal best is around 2,700 on the tactics trainer on chess.com. So in some of these earlier videos, I do expect to be getting higher than 60 to 70% correct. But as we go on in the video series, I do expect to be getting more wrong from time to time. I would suggest as well, when we get going here, if you want to get a little bit more educational boost out of the videos, to go ahead and pause them when a new tactics problem comes up. Give yourself a chance to look at it before I start sharing my thoughts. So with that being said, let's jump into it. I've set the tactical trainer here between 12 and 1400, as you can see, and we'll just solve a number of these and sort of see how it goes. So as I said in the last video, in general, at this level of tactics training, we're going to be looking for checks, captures, and threats, and especially checks and captures at first. So checks I notice are things like this, and in particular, this queen b8 check. It has the merit of both hitting the king and hitting this loose bishop, and should just be winning a piece. So my intuition is that that is probably correct. I do want to double check though, just to make sure that one, that it works, and that two, there's not something better. Because sometimes that's the case with these sorts of problems. They'll be this kind of option, but maybe there's also like a mate and two or something on the board. I don't see anything particularly better, and I don't see that black has any good way to refute this idea, so let's go for it. And also this queen takes b2 is with check as well. Okay, so it looks like it's taking from the last time that I did this, where it says there's 16 correct, but yeah, in any case. Alright, so this is kind of a fun motif that I have seen. Whoops. So importantly, it's a motif that you'll see in these different problems. There'll be a knight sort of on the E file or the D file, depending on the particulars of the position. And the point is that this knight takes away these squares, so that if you sacrifice the rook, as is the case here, sometimes you're sacrificing a queen by taking sort of along this diagonal or something. You take on h7, the king recaptures, which is forced. Rook h2, they can interpose with their knight, and then we'll take their knight. Because the e7 knight is guarding these two squares, that's going to be checkmate. right. So, first thing I notice here is that we are down a knight, but this rook is nicely hampering the king's movement. So again, checks, captures, threats, queen e4 check. If they try something like f5, we could just take en passant with check and then be hitting their queen, which would be no good for them. If we do queen e4, they go to h8. What do we have against that? I'm not seeing anything particularly great. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything particularly great there. I mean, I also sort of think about sacrifices like this, but I need another rook for that kind of idea to work. My rook is not playing over here on a1. If we try something like queen g4, they do have queen g5, they also have rook g8. That doesn't seem to work. Yeah, my intuition is that queen e4 is probably on the right track. Queen e4, king h8. There's no rook g7, just king takes g7. Although, if we did this queen g4 and just for argument's sake, if they played this, we would have this check, which would be hitting their queen. So that seems to suggest queen g4 would need to be followed up with rook g8. And that should just be sufficient, I believe. So that sort of leads me to rook h3 with threat of queen takes h6, king g8, queen h7 mate. Does black have a way to stop this idea? If they put their queen on g5, we can just take it because of the pin on the pawn. A rook cannot protect h6. The knight cannot protect h6. This actually looks pretty promising. Rook h3. The queen cannot come here because the pawn controls that square. Rook h3, let's say f5, just trying to open up the queen's defenses here. We could take with check, king g8, queen h8 check, king to f7. And then queen to h7 would be checkmate with the pawn holding the square. Yeah, so this looks good. Let's go for this. Wow, they don't make you play that whole sequence out. That's interesting. Yeah, that's kind of kind of unfortunate, I guess I would say. You know, have to go through that whole tactical sequence, and then they just make you make one move to get it correct. Alright, so we've got an even material situation. If we take here, that's just going off a piece. Is it just the hanging bishop? No, we don't have any. Sorry, we don't have an even material situation. We're up in exchange. Up in exchange for a pawn. Okay, so is this defensive? So the knight takes, and then they're threatening checkmate. How do we stop that idea? Probably just f4 when the knight holds f4. So just play f4 and the knight is protecting the pawn and thus blocking the diagonal from the queen. I think that works. H takes g4, knight takes g4. Again, they're threatening queen h7, which wouldn't be checkmate, but it would definitely be annoying. It should be mate in 2. Yeah, that would be mate in 2, queen h7, or sorry, queen h2 check, king f1, queen h1 would be checkmate if they got to do all that. But we can just play f4, block it all off, and give ourselves time if they try to break it open with like g5, but give ourselves time to, yeah, I guess even, no, we can't play rook e5 because the knight is, sorry, the knight over here is taking e5. But yeah, I think this is fine. f5, yeah. All right, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay, so checks captures thread. But first, if we look at material, it looks like we have even material. It looks as well like we're attacking this knight, but if we play e takes d6, then they have queen takes d7 check. So instead of that, if we look at our checks captures threats, especially checks, we have this queen b6 move, which both checks the king, hits the knight, and once we capture the knight, we're also protecting this knight. So that looks pretty promising. Do they have a way to refute it? I'm not seeing anything, so let's go for this. Good stuff. Alright, so we have an even material situation. Just looking at checks, captures, and checks and captures, especially queen to e4 check, bishop g2, probably knight takes g3 check when this rook is hanging, so we would be winning a pawn and a rook in exchange for a knight. If queen e4 check, say f3, we can't take it because the queen is protecting. So if queen e4 check, f3, probably still there, just knight g3 check, again with rook takes e1, winning a pawn and a rook for a knight. That looks pretty good to me. Let's go for this. Alright, so endgames. Let's see what we've got. Usually in endgames we're looking to queen and stop the opponent from queening. So first thing I notice is that I have this pawn, they have this pawn, I have a rook stopping this pawn, If we just play h7, this rook is stopping the king from going after the pawn. Well, the king couldn't catch it anyway. So h7, if they queen, we can just take it and then queen ourselves and have a queen against the rook. h7, if they take us with check, probably maybe king g3, hitting the rook. And again, if they queen b1 equals queen, we can just take it, and we're threatening both to take the rook and to queen ourselves. Yeah, h7 looks pretty good. Let's go for it. Okay, good stuff. All right. So we are up a rook. They're about to queen here, though. Check. Queen takes. That doesn't look to be good. So check. Queen takes. King takes. Queens. That doesn't seem to be very good either. So if we take, takes, take, we're up a rook. If they queen, then we'll take it. That actually looks promising. So queen takes g5. The only king move they would have would be this. And yeah, we could just take their queen. At a minimum, there's probably a checkmate there too. I'm just not seeing at the moment. Yeah, this looks to be winning. So again, queen takes g5, the critical line. I think it's just this capture takes. The point is, if they ever queen, then we take it. If they take our pawn, then we just go over here and take this, and then start going after all their other pawns. So this looks good to me. Let's go for this. Okay, so it looks like we have a rook against two minor pieces. Our queen is under attack. First thing I see is this, when we would be up in exchange. If they take our rook, then we capture with checkmate. So they can't do that. So if we take here, we're both threatening to take this with checkmate and to take here. So if we take here and they take us, we just recapture. And at minimum, just be up in exchange there. And a pawn. That looks to be good. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Takes d4. If queen takes, say rook takes, maybe even just king takes there, because we also have this attack. Yeah, let's go for this. Okay. That's kind of odd. Alright. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so it looks like we have an even material situation again. Our queen, of course, is under attack. So queen takes f6, queen takes f6. That doesn't, I don't really see a follow-up after that. Queen takes d2, king takes d2. And my knight is not checking the king in that situation. Hmm. 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 Queen takes, queen takes. Again, I don't see any good follow-up. Oh, sorry. I do apologize. So they're attacking our queen, but we're also attacking their queen. So if we do queen takes d2, king takes d2, and then queen takes e5, we've effectively won a rook. And that works. Okay, so it looks like we're down a rook. Okay. So I notice being down a rook, if we capture this guy, we've got even material. And we're attacking f3. White can't get another defender on f3 because we're attacking it twice with the bishop behind here. We would be winning a piece in that situation. If they move the knight, then we can capture on h1. So yeah, this looks to be good. Just setting up the battery. Okay. We'll do a few more here. So again, checks captures threats. I notice this knight b5 check is forking king and queen. If somehow this capture wouldn't be shown to be irrelevant. But I'm not seeing how as of this point. The other thing I notice is this move rook d1 supported by the knight. When if the queen moves, then we would have two pieces on d7. And even though we're down a piece currently, we would be winning back that piece in that situation. So let's run this out. And their king would sort of be on the run. Rook d1, I don't know. Let's say queen to e5. Excuse me. Queen takes d7. If the king goes back, then queen to d8 is checkmate. If the king goes to b6, the king goes to b6. I mean, the king is just very uncomfortable, I would say that. And we've got two extra pawns, too. So maybe if there's not an immediate win there, the point is we've got even material in terms of pieces. We've got two extra pawns. Their king is on the run, sort of in the middle of the board. I think I like that resulting position. So again, rook d1. Presumably the queen moves. Queen takes d7. If they go to the 8th rank, then queen d8 is checkmate. If king to b6, then their king is on the run. We're up 2 pawns. And I don't see a great refutation. So let's go for this. Okay, another endgame one. So this might be a situation about sort of putting the other side in Zugzwang. So a5, king to b3, king to d4. Yeah, and then the king can't stay in defense of the pawn because we've got these two squares covered. So they'll move, and then we'll take this guy, and that should just be a winning position. a5, if they go the other way, we just go this way, and at minimum take this pawn. Yeah, this seems like it works. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we look like, looks like we have even material. And it looks like we're removing a defender. So if we play bishop takes f3, and say they recapture, then we have queen takes b5, or g5, sorry. Bishop takes f3 if this bishop on e6 moves. This would be double check, so we couldn't take this queen on e2, but we could take king takes d7 and win a piece that way. It'd be uncomfortable, but I think we'd ultimately survive. If we did this, queen takes knight here, or even bishop here. So now I'm wondering if I do need to take with the pawn. Yeah, maybe. Bishop takes check, king takes, rook to d1. Say king here. If the knight sorry. Wow. Bishop takes check, double check. King has to move. We want to try to win material. King takes d7. Rook to d1. King to c1. Let's say c7, because the queen kind of holds this diagonal. King to c7. That feels like it could work. This capture, queen takes, that feels dangerous. Bishop e7. We'll take here, we'll take here. Yeah, either situation looks like we have an exposed king. It's not obvious to me which way is best. Although my definite intuition goes with this idea. Just the kind of classic removing the defender and also threatening to win the queen. Bishop takes check, king takes, rook d1, king c7. They're also taking our bishop, aren't they? Or sorry, they're also taking our queen with their bishop. Yeah, that's the refutation of this d takes e6. They can just, sorry, d takes e6, they can just capture this. So there's your refutation of, if we're trying to figure out which move is correct, D takes E6 has this, which suggests that's incorrect. So here we're attacking their queen, they're attacking ours. If they take ours, we take theirs. If they capture on F3, we just capture on B5. Okay, so this is good. And again, this was king takes D7. Whoops. Here, my intuition was this, getting this bishop out of danger. So let's go with that. Good stuff. Okay, so I want to play queen to F2 mate, but of course this queen is stopping that. So I do have this move, rook H1 check, and because the queen is holding all these squares away from the king, white is forced to play queen takes H1. When we have rook H1, queen takes H1 is forced, queen F2 is checkmate. Yeah, let's go for that. Okay, so good session. Again, problem's a little bit tougher. I hope you guys got a feel for how I go about solving these. I hope it provides, you know, some kind of model in your own solving at this kind of level. Again, my recommendation, as always, just go for accuracy over speed. Let me know if you guys have any comments or anything, you know, in the comments section, and I'll be looking forward to getting the next video in the series out here soon. Until then, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.